WGSN-DB Going Solo Network welcomes you to You Can Find Love After 50 with your host, dating coach Lisa Copeland. Lisa's best-selling book on Amazon, The Winning Dating Formula for Women Over 50, has helped women all over the globe find love. Her weekly column in the Huffington Post, which is viewed by millions of readers, along with her unique insight into how to find a quality man, makes her the #1 dating coach for women over 50. And now, your host, Lisa Copeland.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Copeland, the dating coach who makes finding love after 50 fun and easy at findthequalityman.com. And you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And I want to welcome you to the You Can Find Love After 50 show. One of the biggest questions I'm asked is, who is out there to date? And I want to share with you today 11 men that I encountered in my experiences when I was dating. So let me just tell you a tiny bit about my dating situation at the time. I started dating in my 40s when I really had no clue what I was doing. And the hard part about not knowing what I was doing, and I find this with my clients, the same problem that happens, is you get in a rut or you get stuck and you just don't know what the next step is. And I didn't. I didn't understand men. I didn't even understand that there were men I could date who were good and some not so good. And that is why I love helping women date after 50. And while I was out there dating, I dated in both my 40s and 50s, I came across 11 types of men out there to date. And I'm going to share these with you today. The first guy I came in contact with was the needy guy. Ever deal with one of these before? They want to make you your girlfriend before they've even met you. They want to grab you and take you offline so that nobody else can swoop you up. They call you babe and honey, and they don't know you. I remember doing some email processing with this one guy, and he told me he would go to work and think about me, and then he would come home and he wanted to write his honey. I never even met the guy, and he already had an imaginary relationship with me. A lot of women do this too. What we do, and let me tell you, I'm guilty of this as well. You read a profile and somebody sounds amazing. So what you start imagining is how your life would be with them. You start thinking about all the things that you would do with them, and you imagine maybe becoming Mrs. So-and-so with them. And so you get to the date and you're already in the relationship. But the problem is there is no relationship because you haven't even met yet. So the needy man also wants to consume your time, and you want to put boundaries up with that. You really don't want a needy man. He's actually emotionally unhealthy when someone needs to be with you 24/7. I know for me, I'd suffocate from that. I'm a Scorpio. I need space. And thank God my boyfriend gets that about me and is really good about that because I need time to charge. Somebody clings to me, I move away from them as fast as I can. But the needy man is just someone who needs to have a woman in his life. He may not have that many friends, and a lot of men don't. They really don't have friends. So they want that emotional connection to you. They want someone to do things with. Otherwise, they're home all the time. And every man wants that, but the ones that cling to you just don't feel that good. I remember with that painter, when he came home and said he wanted to talk to his honey in the email, I said, bye-bye, and I ended up blocking him from ever calling me again. Not that he ever called, I should say, write me again. So the next guy that I encountered out there is the motorcycle guy. This could also be the guy that has pictures on there with his shirt off, okay? Don't you hate that, ladies, when they don't have their shirt on? Some guys, like when they're 20s and 30s, look great. I know, men, if you're listening to this, you think you look great, but we really don't want to see it yet. Let us see it when we end up getting intimate with you. Keep your clothes on. All right, the motorcycle guy, though. This is the guy that spends a lot of time riding motorcycles. Every picture of them is with their motorcycles. Now, I know a lot of women get turned off by this. If you're not into motorcycles, it's like, oh my God. But if you are into motorcycles, this could be something fun to do together. Also, not every guy has to be on his motorcycle 24/7. I dated a guy who bought a motorcycle while we were together. Personally, me, I don't feel safe on them. I've heard too many horror stories. I knew a friend that was involved in an accident with a motorcycle person, and they were in the car and they hit a motorcycle. So I'm a fraidy cat when it comes to motorcycles. And this boyfriend said, come on, I'm safe. And he really was safe. I knew he would keep me safe. I wasn't worried about him. I was worried about those other cars that were driving right on by us that might not see us. So for me, motorcycles was a deal breaker. But I did get on it one time. I did not like it because I was just too afraid the whole time. But a lot of good men ride motorcycles. And my boyfriend at that time did not need me to ride the motorcycle with him. So I was fine with it. Give a motorcycle guy a chance as long as he doesn't expect you to ride with him. Now, if you love riding with him, you go for it. I have a lot of clients that they think this is the greatest thing. It makes them feel very free and they love that wind going through their hair. Okay, the next person on our list is the guy with the ring on his finger. He's married. So I had a friend that got involved with a married man. She really fell head over heels in love with this guy. I watched what it did to her when at Christmas he couldn't be with her, or at New Year's he was kissing his wife. He spoke poorly of his wife, but who was he with the majority of the time? His wife. I also have a friend who just lost a boyfriend who was married, and what was really sad was she was mourning on her own. She could not go to the funeral. The family actually saw her somewhere, and the kids just sneered at her. The problem with married men, and I would even throw this over to separated men too, is no matter how poorly they think of their wives, they are still emotionally connected to them and to their families until that divorce happens. I've had a lot of clients tell me before we started working together that they dated separated men. And what ended up happening to them was the relationship didn't work because in many ways, you're a rebound relationship when you're dating a separated man. And when you're dating a married man, you are the mistress. You don't have the same benefits the wife does. And you can get crushed. So my friend that was dating the married man that fell head over heels, they met in a bar. He was upfront with her, but he charmed her and just swept her off her feet. And he sent her gifts. And in the beginning, he called all the time and texted all the time. What would happen is he would hang up the second his wife would walk in the room. So that means a piece of them will never be available to you. And you really want someone in your life who can be there at the drop of a hat because you need them, or you want to spend the holiday with them, or you just want to snuggle up with them on a Saturday night. They're not available. So I'd be really careful of dating separated and married men. Now, another guy I found out there when I was dating, especially in my 40s, was the guy that really needed a shrink, not a date. So what they would do is they would tell you all their problems with their ex-spouse. They would complain about them, and the entire date was spent talking about their ex and how bad she was and how she didn't let him do this and she didn't let him do that. it becomes really kind of boring. And it's really important we don't, as women, do this either. Because what happens is there's 3 people on the date. There's you, the guy, and his ex-wife. She's really there with you because he's drawing her energy and bringing it with him. Now, a lot of women are overgivers, and they love a good project, or they love to fix men. They'll have a guy telling them all this, and they'll just take that guy in their arms and pull him close and start to take care of him. And the guy is so thrilled in the beginning because it's probably been a long time since somebody took care of him. But what ends up really happening is he starts to feel controlled. And when he starts to feel controlled, he starts to get angry with you for all you're doing for him because a man wants to be a man. He really wants to be the one taking care of you. Then he becomes healthy because you fixed him and he leaves you. And you're devastated because you put this guy together. You fixed him up. You put him back together. So men that need shrinks, let the shrink do it. You can't fix his problems. Well, you can, but then you're taking on his problems as his own, as your own. And when you do that, you lose you in doing that. And one of the biggest things men have told me they're attracted to in women is their passion and all the things they love to do. When they stop doing these things and the women become the man, meaning they take on all the man's interests and everything the man wants to do, to a man, you become kind of dull. So don't take on a guy that needs a shrink. Give him a shrink's number if you want and tell him when he feels better that you'd love to get to know him. But at this point, you feel he's emotionally unhealthy and in a way he's unavailable. When so much energy is spent on another woman, he's unavailable. But that when he feels better, you'll be around. You would love to get to know him then. So we're going to come back to some more of these men that I dated and men that I'm sure you've dated. I can only imagine how many of these you're identifying with. But first, we just have to take this short commercial break to remind you that you're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. And I'm Lisa Copeland, the dating coach who makes finding love after 50 fun and easy. And you're listening to the You Can Find Love After 50 show. By the way, I'm going to be doing a show in the future called Dear Lisa. I would love if you would write to me. You can go to my website at findaqualityman.com and look for the contact tab. And when it drops down, it says Dear Lisa, and send me the issues that are bothering you. I'll never use your full name. If you want me to use a specific name so you can identify it's you, put that specific name in there. But let me know what's bothering you with over 50s dating, what you would like answers to, and I would love to answer these for you. Also, another way to get a lot more tips and advice about over 50s dating is go to my website, findaqualityman.com, and sign up to get my free report, The 5 Little Known Secrets for Finding Quality Men After 50. You will also get, in addition to the free report, a subscription to my weekly blog. And I give all kinds of tips in that blog that can help you get unstuck, get out of a rut. I can show you programs that can help you as well. And if you're really stuck, I coach women around the world. You can go to the one-on-one coaching tab on my site and fill out an application to speak to me. And let's see how we can change dating for you and get you out there having fun, because I loved dating once I knew what I was doing. Oh my God, it was just so much fun being around that male energy all the time. But when I didn't know what I was doing in my 40s, oh my God, I was miserable. And you don't have to be miserable. When I did it again in my 50s, it was so much fun because I was a dating coach and I knew what I was doing. And it got me the great relationship I'm in now with a man who just cherishes me and adores me, and it's awesome.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
So we've been talking about the men who are out there that you can date. And we covered a needy man, a motorcycle guy, a married or separated guy. The next guy we're going to talk about, and we also covered when he needs a shrink, not a date. The next guy we're going to talk about is the guy who lives further away. He's the guy who's the long distance relationship. So when I first started dating, I had created this bucket list where I wanted to go to what I considered an exotic country. I chose Australia, and I threw a guy in as part of it. Not smart. You're on 2 different continents, 15 hours apart, yet I talked to him all the time. I don't know how we managed to do that, but we did. And I went to that exotic country and met him. When you meet a guy that lives that far away, you create a fantasy relationship. On the phone, we were amazing. I thought I'd fallen in love with this Aussie with the most amazing accent who could say good day, mate, or matey, or whatever it was. And I just thought, oh my God, this is like so awesome. And I remember how excited I was when I took the plane ride to Australia, which was far, like 25 hours. And, I'm feeling grungy, and I get off that plane and I see this guy there and I go, oh my God, this is not who I thought I was meeting. Because every time we talked on the phone, I created more and more of an illusion in my head of who he was. So of course, after 2 months of creating this picture of who I thought he was, yes, I had seen a picture of him, but this was also before the time of Facebook and Skype. So we were talking on the phone, literally. So I couldn't see how his face moved when he talked or any of that. I get off the plane and he starts talking to me and I'm like, this was a mistake. It was a tough mistake, I will tell you. It was one of the worst 2 weeks of my life. I should have just left and gone and traveled. And by the way, you always want to think of everything as not necessarily a mistake. It's an opportunity to correct. And I wish I had corrected, taken off from where he was and gone and explored Australia, because there's a lot there to explore, but I didn't. I got myself stuck in a rut and I stayed and I was miserable. So when you meet men further than 2 hours away, you got a big issue here. It's pretty hard to have a relationship with them because they are too far away. When you're about 2 hours away by car ride, you can always meet during the week halfway. And you need to be able to see a man's face. You need to see how he reacts to things, what he looks like when he's having meals. You don't want to develop a relationship with a fantasy guy. It usually does not work out when it's too far away, like the guy in Australia. I also actually met a guy when I first started dating in Florida. And my friends were so freaked out and they said, we're going to call you every hour to make sure you're okay. And they did. I didn't know any better. I was in my 40s. I thought this would be just so much fun. And you get yourself really trapped because you don't know anything really about them. Anyone can say whatever they want on the phone, but their lives could be totally different. So you want to really try and keep within a 2-hour driving distance. And that really does work because, like I said, you can meet during the week and you have a chance to talk. Now, the fortunate thing today is you also have Skype and you have FaceTime. So you can get an idea of how people look. But the chemistry you have on those situations, including the phone or the video on computer, it is still different than when you actually meet face to face. It's just a very different way of looking at things. Okay, the next guy was one of my favorite guys when I first started on online dating sites. It wasn't a favorite because I thought he was a good guy. It was a favorite because I just thought he was hysterical. So I remember reading a profile, and what this guy said was, I'm looking for a blonde, petite woman who is an executive in her company, who wears this kind of clothing, drives this kind of car. That made me laugh because I thought, does this guy think he's at the Wendy's drive-thru asking for a cheeseburger with lettuce and pickles and onions and whatever else he wants? This kind of guy definitely has in his mind who he wants. He's probably very, very controlling. I remember when I was one of the first 5 years of my marriage, my first mother-in-law told us about her friend who was a teacher who ended up it was the beginning of the matchmaking sites. And she met this guy, and he was a little bit like this. He wanted a woman a certain way. So what he started to do was he said, you have to learn how to play golf. You have to lose this amount of weight. You have to make your hair this color, and you have to go to the gym with me 5 times a week. And she did it. But oh my God, he was so controlling. So when you have a guy like this, I don't care how handsome he is or how wealthy he is, you don't want someone controlling you. She became a little bit like a Stepford wife. He said jump, she said how high. And you really want to still have your independence, and you still want to be you. So I would leave the Takeout Order Guy back at the Wendy's drive-thru and look for a man who's going to accept you for exactly who you are. That's really what you want. So the next topic or the next combination guy is the one who wants an older woman. He's looking for a cougar. I had this repair guy come to my house. Oh my God, this was the most handsome looking guy you've ever seen. He looked a little bit like a mix of George Clooney and some guy who used to be on House. And he knew he looked like this. He knew that because he's the one that told me about the House guy. He was young. I was already 50 and he was in his, I'd say late 30s, maybe early 40s. And he's giving me a quote. I had mold in my roof and we ended up having to come to my basement. I wanted to be sure there was no mold there. And while I was looking around, I picked up the water tank for the dehumidifier and I ended up tripping. And he caught me, and it was the funniest, to him it was the funniest thing. But something about that clicked a chemistry between us, and we sat out on my porch. He gave me his quote, and then he also gave me an opportunity to sleep with him. And I'm like, what? Who are you? And he goes, I just love women and I love experiencing all kinds of women. I said to him, are you looking for a mother? And he said, no, I just love all kinds of women. So what ended up happening is he continued to pursue me long after he did this job at my house. And he ended up sending me pictures of his parts and pieces. And I was like, you must be kidding me. These younger guys do this. It's like it's a trophy for them. And then they ask you to send something of you. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? This could be on the internet anywhere and everywhere. No way. So finally I said enough with this. And I ended up cutting it off. It was very flattering. And some of these relationships do work. I had a cousin who was 70 and she was dating a guy who was 55 and he loved her. He just loved and adored her. So it can work. If you want to be a cougar, hey, why not? These guys do not have the same type of sexual dysfunction you'll find in the older guys. They may not be as attentive to you, but they could be a lot of fun to play with and to have fun with. And why not? You can date anyone you want. One of the things you want to do is get the voices out of your head that say, no, 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 you can't do this. Because yes, 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 you definitely can. Now, on the other side of that coin is the older man. I dated a guy who was 11 years older than me. I'm in the middle of the baby boomers. And he was actually in the generation right before the boomers. He was far more chivalrous. He was very, very much a gentleman. But a lot of things bothered him that wouldn't have bothered somebody who was a boomer. For example, I had a lot of guys who were friends. They're just friends. And I always told them if I was going to go out to lunch with them, because I'd been friends with them a long time. There was no romantic relationship going on here. And yet he was very jealous because he didn't think that was right. He thought that man was encroaching on his territory and couldn't understand the idea of friendship. He was an amazing man. I learned a lot about men from him, a lot about chivalry, and a lot about a man who really wants to make you feel safe and protected. They do. They just have different nuances than baby boomers do, yet they're fun to explore, and I would say go for it if you can. The next guy is the bad boy. Oh my God, we all love a bad boy. Why? He is so charming. So when I was finishing of my second divorce, my old high school boyfriend showed up, and he was the ultimate bad boy. Not so much back then, but he had become the ultimate bad boy. He was very handsome. Women jumped hoops to go out with him. He knew what to say to them. That's why. So we started talking, and he would say things to me like, if you were mine, I would put you on a pedestal. You're the love that got away from me. All these things that made me feel amazing. Now, remember, I was in the middle of a divorce, and it was a pretty rough second divorce that I had. And there he was. He was talking to me all the time. He was so courteous, so there for me. And then I got divorced and he disappeared. And then all of a sudden, about a month later, he shows up again and starts with all that charming talk, making me feel amazing. And this cycle of leaving and showing up and leaving and showing up would happen again and again and again. And every single time he showed up, I would think, oh my God, this is going to be different. I know it. He's really going to want to be with me this time. A bad boy doesn't need any woman because he can have so many women. So it's like being a kid in the candy store. When one doesn't work, he's going to move on to the next one that will, or one that seems maybe just a little bit better. He can't settle and can't commit because he always thinks something better is out there. But when he's with you, he's going to make you feel amazing. And this is why we get so hooked on him. So I got really hooked on this guy, and it made me so sad when he would disappear because I always thought he really cared. I mean, my God, he said all these great things to me. Now, we lived in two cities, and one of the interesting things with him is I could never get him to meet me. I later found out from him that he had been off and on in a relationship or off and on dating other women at the same time. And I remember thinking, where did this guy go? He said all these great, great things. The biggest key to identifying a bad boy, he says smooth things, things that make you feel great, but his actions don't match his words. And you really want a man whose actions match his words. Now, one of the worst types of men you want to get involved with, this has been happening as online dating has become more and more common, which it is today. It is the best way to meet men if you know how to navigate the system. And I help women with this every single day. Learn to go from hating online dating to loving online dating. So this guy, our 10th guy, is the scammer. And the scammer is really tough because this is almost a bad boy as well. What he'll do is he'll have a picture that makes him look amazing. I mean, he's gorgeous. And when he picks you, you go, oh, he chose me. And that makes you feel like your value became higher because he chose you. But what it really, and he's banking on that because he knows that if you might show that you're lonely in your paragraph or that you're looking for your soulmate, I always say don't put that in your profile. If he hooks on to certain words that you write, he'll hook into you and write to you. So these scammers write to you. They come from Africa, from different parts of Africa where these men can't get jobs, and women do this too, by the way. And this is big money. What they do is they get you to the telephone very quickly because they can't write that well, and they cannot sustain any type of email relationship. They will send you poetry, but they've copied it from somewhere else. And you'll find they can't send you additional pictures because the pictures they've sent you are model pictures, and they can't find another model that looks the same. The tip-off for these guys is they really get to know you on the phone. You'll love their accents, and they talk to you for hours, so you feel like someone really cares. They're going to pry you and find out what your biggest problems are or your biggest pains were in your life. Maybe you had to put a dog to sleep. Maybe your mother died. Maybe a spouse died. Maybe a child died. Whatever it is, they're going to find it, and they're going to identify it and say that they have it too. And then you feel like you're understood by someone, that someone really gets the pain of this. And they know this. They know this. And that they are really hooking into your emotional Achilles tendon. And you'll talk and talk and talk and talk. And then at some point he starts bringing up business. They almost always refer to Africa, that they're on business in Africa, and that's why they can't meet you. It's oftentimes logging companies. And that's another tip-off, when they can't meet you. You always want to meet a man as quickly as possible. I should have known that from my Australia guy. But we did meet pretty fast, and within 3 months we met. You only want to have a couple emails, 1 or 2 phone calls, and then get to the meet and greet. If he says I'm on business and I may not be back to the States for about 6 months, say, okay, contact me when you come back. Even though this guy looks gorgeous, even though he tells you he has his own company, he is probably a scammer. If you stay on the phone with him, he'll start talking about business, and at one point he'll ask you for money. And you'll give it to him gladly because he's hurting and he helped you when you were hurting. Never give money to anyone you've never met. That is the biggest tip-off. Intelligent men and women have gotten scammed because these people know how to make you feel amazing. But again, their actions don't follow their words. They won't meet you because they can't. They can't leave the country of Africa. They have to be there. So you definitely want to remember this is a huge tip-off. If they can't meet you after 2 phone calls, let it go. Now the last guy is the quality man. Who is a quality man? This is an emotionally healthy man who is there for you, who wants to make you happy, who wants to make you feel great, who will do anything for you, who wants to be your hero. He's going to be there as fast as he can when you're sad, and when you want to celebrate something, he's going to be there to celebrate with you. He follows up his words with actions, and he's a really good guy. A lot of women think, okay, the handsome guy and the wealthy guy is the good guy. I'm here to tell you that is not true. The guy who's a good guy for you is the one that shares the values that are important to you and feels amazing to be around. You laugh, you talk, you cry together, you smile together, you just have fun enjoying each other. That is a quality man. So we went through quite a few men in this program. Write down some of those men that you want to date and some of those men you want to stay away from, so that when men contact you online, you can say, oh, I heard this on the You Can Find Love After 50 show on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. I'm Lisa Copeland, the dating coach who makes finding love after 50 fun and easy. I hope you enjoyed this show. Get in touch with me if you want me to answer any issues you are facing with over 50s dating by going to my website at findaqualityman.com. Look for contact and the drop down that says Dear Lisa. I look forward to talking to you on our next show, where we'll be talking more about how to have fun finding love after 50.